recording. So we are recording. Yes, again. So my name is Miss Logan. My name is Miss Logan. Miss Terry Logan. We are on Magic Mondays, Magical Mondays. I think I have it in 2 different ways in 2 different places. I have to decide what I'm going to call it. But all that to say, we are reviewing for the Algebra 1 MMp course test. And I'm doing it standards-based because I actually taught in Georgia, but I am in South Carolina, and a lot of the standards are very similar. So I'm aligning those standards, and let's talk about what we are covering today. So today is January 10th, 2022. Let me see if my technology is going to work with me. No, of course not. All right, let me change this slide. I'll be walking back and forth. So sorry. So today we will be solving literal equations. So South Carolina standard, that's ACE 4, A1 ACE 4, and ACED 4, I think is the one, and maybe REI 3 is going to depend. I'm going to go back and double check that, but we're in that area for sure. We are solving equations, and today we're looking at literal, but we are going to do some other things as well in our practice. Next week, I'm leaving that open so that maybe I can cover a second semester standard and look at, or a standard for each one of the scope and sequences for South Carolina and Georgia. After that, the 24th, we'll be looking at solving inequalities, and on the 31st, we'll be looking at correlation, linear correlation. And if there are any errors, I will go back and change. Since there's no one here in this moment, then we're okay. And I am doing this alone, so this is going to be an interesting concept. I need that not to fall asleep. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. All right, so we want to begin with a warm-up exercise, warm those brains up. Since I'm here by myself, that means that I am going to have to jump on this quiz just to show what's going to happen. And so that's exactly what's going to happen. So the quiz is called joinmyquiz.com. Let's log on to that. And then what I am going to do is go ahead and pull that up so that we can see that. Joinmyquiz.com, where is she? There it is. All right, this is where we're going. Joinmyquiz.com, and your code is 928938. So we're logging on to joinmyquiz.com on your device, whatever that is. I'm on a cell phone. And then you're going to enter your code. It's going to say join the game. You're going to enter the code 928938. Most of you all are familiar with this process. And that's me. So we have one participant. Yay! All right, so let's get started. And this moment, we are not going to belabor, so I'm going to go ahead and start that game for us. And here we go. Oh, I'm supposed to answer the question. I'm going to be judicial. I did create this. And I didn't get the answer right. Oh, but in my defense, I'm still at the top. So the first problem is A equals 4 divided by pi. And we're going to come back and go over this. We're going to come back and go over this on a screen that's actually easier to look at, because this one's not that easy to see in this moment. All right, so we're going to keep going. I'm going to go ahead and take my loss. It's all good. And I'm going to do this time. I'm going to put B, because again, I did it, so I do know the answers. We're going to work them together. All done. And again, I'm at the top because I'm the only one here. But it'd be like that sometimes. All right, so I chose B. The correct answer is C, I did not get the correct answer. So from my perspective, yes, I want to end that quiz. And we are going to jump back into the presentation and let's talk about, and that was just, warm up the brain, have a little bit of fun. Have a little bit of fun starting us out. Let's go over those though. Let's go over those because if we're at the point where we're solving literal equations, that means that we have actually already solved equations and we are comfortable with the steps associated with doing so. So let's look at number one. The first one you have 8 equals 4 pi, and that's what you're seeing. So you look to see what is the operation that you actually see, and then you're going to do the opposite of that. And so just as a quick reminder, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So these two operations will undo each other. If we see multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. So these operations undo each other. Right now, that's where we will slow down because that's necessary to get through the day as far as the literal equations that we will be working. So let's look at this first one. 8 equals 4 times pi. And if we look at this expression, that means that 4 is multiplied times pi. So what we're going to do is use the opposite operation because we want to actually get pi on the side by itself. Solving for pi, meaning we want pi on the side by itself. We want +1 in front of pi. So we do that by actually dividing. So, okay, boom, we see multiplication, 4 times pi. To undo that, we're going to divide both sides of our equation by 4. I need the 4 to go to the other side. So I'm going to divide this side of the equation by 4. I'm going to divide this side of the equation by 4. 4 divided by 4 will simplify to be 1 because anything divided by itself is 1. So on the right side of the equation, we have pi. And on the left side of the equation, a divided by 4 cannot be simplified. So that becomes our expression. So then this would be the answer, a divided by 4. Now let's go over this other problem from the warm-up. 2x plus 6 equals 10. So this is a 2-step equation. What you want to do, what I would do is I would start by moving. Yes, we can deal with this multiplication in here, but it's a little bit harder and it's going to begin to create numbers. A lot of times it will create fractions and that's not a place that we're comfortable. So it's best to move that 6 out of the way. We see a +6, we know we need to use the opposite operation. Well, what is the opposite of addition? It's subtraction. So I have a +6 on each side of the equation. I need to subtract 6 because that's how I would get this 6 off of this side of the equation, but I need to also subtract 6 from that side of the equation. I need to make sure to keep the equations balanced. So +6 minus 6 will be 0. I'm left on the right side of the equation with 2x. And on the left side of the equation, 10 minus 6 is 4. Almost done. This looks similar to this problem we saw over here. So we know that that is multiplication. And I need to undo that multiplication by using the operation of division. So I'm going to divide both of those equations by 2. Both sides of the equation by 2. And 2 divided by 2 will simplify to be 1. Now we don't write the 1. It is kind of one of those things, not kind of, it's assumed. We know that that's a 1. However, if you need to write the 1 and then simplify it to not seeing the 1 because you're not ever going to see that 1 as far as on assessments and problems and things of that nature, they're not going to do that. They assume that you know that. And then simplify the right side of the equation. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So x equals 2. And that's how you would solve both those problems. Now, warming up these concepts, these are the operations that we're using as we're working with those literal equations. So let me erase this and move to the next one. All right, so let's look at this next problem. The volume of an object is related to its density and mass. The equation below shows the relationship between density, d, mass, m, and volume, v. V equals m divided by d. So which one of these equations represents the density of an object in relation to its volume and its mass? Now, this is where it gets tricky because you have to know how to solve those problems because there are no numbers. So there is nothing I can substitute into the equation. I kind of need to know what I did to get from one part to the next part. So I created a slide. The next slide is blank, and I'm going to go there for a moment. Let me go back. for a second. V equals M divided by D. Okay, so we're going to solve for D. So V equals M divided by D. That was a capital. All right. So if we want to solve by D, if we want to solve for D, we want D on the side by itself with a positive 1 or the implied 1 in front of it. Well, in order to do that, I have to get it out of this denominator. So it is divided on this side of the equation. But I can't have it over there if I actually want to solve for it. So what I would need to do is move it. Well, how do I move it? I look at the operation that I see. I see division. To undo division, I use multiplication, right? I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by D. On the left side of the equation, I'm going to have dV. And on the right side, these values will simplify to be 1. This is the same thing as M times D over D. And then those D over D will simplify to be 1. Just wanted to know. So what's left on the right side of the equation is M. Now we're not done because we wanted to solve for D. However, we have one more simple step. We see that there's multiplication between the D and the V. We want D on the side by itself, so I have to move the V. Well, how do I move the V? How do I do undo multiplication? I need to use division. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by V because that's the variable that I actually want to move. Divide the left by V, divide the right by V. On the left side, V divided by V simplifies to be 1. We're left with D. And on the left side of the equation, M over V becomes what D equals. So I'm going to write that in the corner and go back to the previous slide. So D equals, we just solved M divided by V. I'm going to erase this and go back so we can choose the correct answer choice. Now, since no one is here, then I am going to, and I intend to share this video, then I am going to assign, there's an exit ticket that we were going to work on, but since no one's here, I'm going to assign it so that you can work on that and answer those questions. So anyway, going back to what we found that D is equal to M divided by V. Well, if we found that, then the correct answer choice is not A, not B. M divided by is D. D is the correct answer choice. Yes, all right, let's move on to the next one. On to the next problem. It is another word problem. Yep, got to have it. This is test prep. They love word problems. They love for you to read things and figure it out. Oh, I just need to go next. Next. Yes, a rectangle has perimeter P, length L, and width W. Which of the following represents W in terms of P and L? Okay, so first things first, what is the equation for perimeter? Now I wrote this one because I think I pulled this one or a problem very similar to this one. This says PSAT. So this one I think I got from PSAT, and it just so happens to align with the standards of solving for literal equations in algebra in South Carolina and Georgia as well. So I believe on the PSAT, they give you the equation for perimeter. I can't make that. I'm not 100% positive about on the EOCs if you have that equation. So this is one of those things you may want to have memorized. Anyway, so when you're talking about perimeter, you're actually talking about the distance around a figure. So this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. You're talking the distance around. So the perimeter is equal to 2L times 2W. You need to know that first before we can do anything else. This is the equation that we're manipulating. This is what we're moving around. We're going to then take, now where did the 2L and the 2W come from? If this is a four-sided figure, we know that that's a rectangle. This is a four-sided figure. On rectangles, your opposite sides are congruent. So this is the length, this is the width, this is the length, this is the width. So I have two widths and two lengths. So that's where that comes from. Again, only if you're not given that equation will you have to kind of try to figure out what the equation is. But I know on the PSAT, well, I'm pretty sure on the PSAT they give it to you. Not 100% positive about, I can get back to you on that. Anyway, we have our equation. We are solving for, we want the following in terms of W. So we're solving for W. Okay, so we want W by itself. So we need to take, oh, and I put That was a big old mistake. I'm sorry. That is not multiplication there. That is supposed to be addition. 2L plus 2W. 2 times L plus 2 times W. My bad. All right, now let's solve. So we're going to move everything away from this term here. So 2W, we need that W on the inside of that, but right now we need to move some stuff. So we need to move this. If you look at the sign in front of this value, there's nothing there, which we know that to be the assumption that this is a positive value, which means it was added to the equation. To move it to this side of the equation, I would need to take this value to 0. So subtract 2L from this side of the equation and then do the same to the other side of the equation. Positive 2L minus 2L is going to simplify to be 0. These are not like terms, so all I can do is write it again. P minus 2L, set that equal to, that's a 0 value, and then we have 2W. We are very close to what we're looking for because we want W on a side by itself, but we're not quite there. We're not quite there because we have this 2 in front, but we know it is multiplied. So since it is multiplied, then I know to undo that or to get that to that other side, I'm going to use division. So I'm going to divide this side of the equation by 2 and this entire side of the equation by 2. 2 divided by 2 simplifies to be 1. So I'm going to come over here since that's getting a little low. And W is equal to, none of this can be simplified. Well, we can rewrite it, but in this moment, we don't need to do that. So we're going to leave it as it's written because we were just trying to solve for W, and we have actually done that at this point. And we're going to look for our answer. So if we come over here at A, W equals 2P minus 2L, that's not it. W equals 2P minus L divided by 2, that's not it. P, no, yes. P minus 2L divided by 2. D is the correct answer choice that has our equation solved for W accurately. All right. We're good. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, number 3. Is it more challenging? It's a little bit more detailed than number 1 and 2. I think it has some rigor on it. It does have you do a couple of things. Oh, and I didn't give you answer choices. Yes. Now, the homework, you do have answer choices, but you do not have answer choices right now. Oh my goodness, I underplanned, so I'm gonna have to give you all some extra practice. Oh well, I'm gonna upload this to my YouTube channel, so extra practice is always great. Because it is only 5:18 and I was supposed to be going for an hour. Anyway, given the triangle, a student represents the perimeter P as 3L minus 12 plus 4L plus 4 plus 2 times 2L plus 10 equals to P. Now, for those of you who need a picture, and just being honest, I modeled this after something. There was a visual. If you need a visual, give yourself a visual. If that's going to help you solve the problem and make sure that you know what you need to do. So we have a triangle, 3-sided figure. It doesn't matter that the sides are perfect. That's not what's happening right now. We don't have to have that. We just need a figure that has 3 sides. Yes, we just need a figure that has 3 sides and understanding that the concept is we're adding those sides together. Okay, cool, let's move on. All right, so we have this, we know what this is. We want to solve for L. Well, I have to do a whole bunch of stuff before I can solve for L. So let's get started. What do we see? Well, I see like terms. I don't know if you see like terms. I see like terms. I see some positives and some negatives. I see some parentheses. So I need to go ahead and use PEMDAS. Just want to throw that in there as one of those things that we review, because we're going to have to take care of these parentheses and multiply that through. That's an important concept that comes up in this problem. And this one was modeled after a problem taken from the end of course test in South Carolina, for sure. So, okay, cool. We know what we need to do. We see we have some parentheses. We need to take care of that. We're going to follow the order of operation. That's what that P is for. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division. We can kind of do those from left to right as we see them. Addition and subtraction are done last. We do them from left to right as we see them. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take care of this, which means we're going to distribute that 2 by multiplying this value into both of those. And I'm just going to lift the parentheses because there's nothing to be multiplied here. So this becomes 3L minus 12 plus. This is positive, so it doesn't change the value of what's in parentheses. So I'm just going to lift those. 4L plus 4. Now, here, we have to multiply that 2 to what's in those parentheses. That's very important. So 2 times 2L becomes 4L, and it is positive. And then a positive 2 times a positive 10 becomes 20, and set that equal to P. And I know that was a lot, right? It was. It's okay. It's okay. All right, next. Next, make sure y'all still see well. Oh yeah, y'all good. Except that PEMDAS. Did y'all get that PEMDAS? PEMDAS. Oh, there we go. That looks like a pretty good image. All right, I'm back. Now what we need to do, let me see if I can get another color going, is we need to combine like terms. So the thing about what we're looking at, think about apples and oranges. You can't, well, that's one of the analogies that I like, but yeah, so apples and apples, oranges and oranges. So the things that look alike can be added. And yes, that's an L and not an E. So we have the 3L here, the 4L, positive 3L, positive 4L, and positive 4L here, right? And then the values that do not have a variable. So these are the values with the variable, and the variable has to be exactly the same when we are collecting like terms or adding like terms or whatever term that makes us comfortable. This, so negative 12 plus 4, these are the values that do not have a variable, and then plus 20. Pay close attention to those signs because that makes a difference. So I'm going to actually run through this one really slowly. I'm going to combine these together. So I have 3L plus 4L plus 4L, right? Plus here I have negative 12 plus 4 plus 20. Now some of you did not need me to do that. You got it, you know how to, you know what to combine. This is too slow for you, I understand. Some of us needed to group that together, and some of us need one more step because you can kind of factor that out, and this becomes 3 plus 4 plus 4L plus, and then we would just combine those values together. Now, a negative plus a positive, we are going to subtract and keep the side of the highest. Oh, I know I'm throwing all these things out at one time. So negative 12 plus 4 gives us negative 8. 12 minus 4 is 8. Sign of the highest is negative, so that's still going to be negative 8. And then negative 8 plus 20 is going to give us 12. Positive 12. And set that equal to P. Now we still need to take care of this though. So 3 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11L plus 12 equals P. Now that's cool. Except we're not solving for P, right? We are solving for L, so there are 2 more things that I need to do. Let me just make sure that we still have a good visual for the video. All right, awesome. I am going to erase something. I'm running out of space. So 11L plus 12 equals P. 11L plus 12 equals P. So that's where we are. We're at 11L plus 12 equals P, and we are still solving for L. Very good. Okay, so now we want to solve for L. We're solving for this situation right here. Well, that means I need to move everything away from it. So I'm going to start with this, plus 12. And with that plus 12, I know I need to do the opposite operation. So if it's added, I am going to subtract this value from each side of the equation. So plus 12 minus 12, 0. So what's left on the left side is 11L. Now on the right side of the equation, we have P minus 12 because these are not like terms. This doesn't have a P on it. This is not a number with no variable, so all I can do is rewrite it. Next step, I'm still trying to solve for L. I've got this 11 in front of L. That 11 doesn't need to be there if I'm solving for L, so how do I do? Well, I see multiplication, 11 times L. To undo that, I need to divide both sides by 11. Dividing both sides by 11. On the left side of the equation, that will simplify all the way down. 11 divided by 11 is 1. So 1L is equal to P minus 12 divided by 11. Cannot simplify that anymore. We can rewrite it because this is the same thing as P over 11 minus 12 over 11. Just to go there, that doesn't necessarily help us, especially when it comes to literal equation in tests. They're probably not going to separate it into that fraction like that. They're just not going to do that. So you're going to most likely see the form like this, and you'll be looking for that as an answer choice when you are testing. All right, so it is about 526. Let's see. Like I said, OMG, I expected some engagement. So no, we're not going through the quiz. I'm going to post that. I'm going to do some more practice because literal equations are difficult. So I have a book and I am going to pull some more problems. So hopefully, so this is not going to be, well, more practice. Because this is SAT, PSAT, and ELCT prep, all of that. Solving equations in general. So we are going to look at, and I'm just going to roll. We're going to look at a problem. I want to do A equals A plus B plus C over 3. We are going to solve for, what are we solving for? A. Okay, so A equals A plus B plus C. All right, so we are going to solve. We're solving for A, so that's what we're solving for. All right, so first things first, this is what we're solving for. So if I'm solving for A, I got to figure out what I have to do to get A on the side by itself. Well, the first thing I need to take care of is this situation right here. I've got this divided by 3, and it doesn't need to be down there. So I see division, you undo division by using multiplication, all right? So multiply both sides of the equation by 3. So then 3A equals A plus B plus C. This 3 cancels. That is the same thing as 3 times A plus B plus C all over 3. And then though that value over itself simplifies to be 1. So just, all right, next step, because we're still trying to solve for A. Well, we have B and C over here that don't need to be over here, but we see the operation in front of them. We see plus C, we see plus B. Well, we know the opposite of addition is subtraction. And we need to subtract those to the other side in order to move them to the other side. So I'm going to do them now. If you're advanced, then you're probably like, I'm going to subtract them both at the same time. If we need to go in steps, we are going to go in baby steps, and that's fine. So 3A minus C equals A plus B. And I know I just made some people uncomfortable subtracting the C before the B. 3A minus B minus C, I'll put it back in order, equals A. So then that becomes the equation solved for lowercase a. Just to do some more problems. Let's look at another one. Let's look at one that has a fraction. So A equals 1/2 base times height. Let's look at one that has a fraction. h and how you would do that. So a equals 1/2 base times height, and we want to solve for, I'll do nice directions. So we're going to solve for h, right? Okay, cool. So let's get started. So if we're going to solve for h, this time I'm going to rewrite it. A equals 1/2 times b times h. I want this by itself, so I need to move this to the other side of the equation, the 1/2 and the b. So let's start with the 1/2. So since I see a fractional value, so this is the first time we've seen something like that, at least today. So the way that you do that, well, we've seen it in a different form, because this could also be written, it would be equivalent as b times h divided by 2. So if you think about it from that perspective, we have seen something like that. And what you would do is you see division and you use multiplication. And when it's in this form, then we call it multiplying each side of the equation by the reciprocal, where we flip that fraction. So we have 1/2, we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2/1. So I don't know if that was confusion. Hopefully it was not confusing. I just want to make sure to cover the way you may have heard it in class, because these are equivalent values. And so when you see it like that, we have seen that today, where we had a number on the bottom and we took that number that was in the denominator or on the bottom and multiply both sides of the equation by that value. And then in essence, that's what we're doing here. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2. On the left, you'll have 2a. And on the right, this 2 and this 2 cancels, because this is the same thing as 2/1. We may not write it like that, but it is something that we expect to be understood in the process of learning, as you're learning what a whole number is, and that is any whole number can be written as itself over 1. Okay, anyway, so those simplify. Boom, and we're left with b times h. We are very close to solving for h, but not quite yet. We have something over here with it. Now, you may not see that dot. I've been putting that dot to represent multiplication, but you may not always see that. And if you don't, then we are to assume that that is multiplication as well. You've got 2 values, 2 letters, 2 variables by each other. That is multiplication. We want to divide in order to get the value on a side by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by b. If it were a number, you would do the same thing, because anything over itself is 1. So b divided by b is 1. What's left on the right side of the equation is h. And then what's left on the left side cannot be simplified anymore. If it could have, you simplify it. If it can't, you rewrite it. So we're left with 2a divided by b. And that would be taking this equation and solving it for the letter h. Make sure my lights hang on. I have none. Okay. All right. I think I wanted to do one with I want to do pi r squared, and I want to solve. Oh wait, something just happened. Uh-oh. We're still recording. Sorry, having technical difficulties. I lost my camera. Oh, we back. We back. I don't know what was happening. One more problem. How about that? I like it. One more problem we're going to do. We're going to actually drill down, and I'm going to pull an exponent in for a moment. And that's going to be it. I'm going to assign the link, and we're going to go ahead and pull up out of here. I have a sick child, so maybe I need to just go on here and respect the universe and take a moment. All right, so a equals pi r squared, and that is our last problem. That is our last problem before we call it a day. I was so nervous. That is so funny. A equals pi r squared, but we will be here next week because I will be uploading these videos And we will be doing a different standard, and we're going to solve for R. R being the radius in this particular problem. So A equals pi r squared. Love it, love it, love it. Why? Because this is the first time that we've seen that. And so I want to jump over here with we talked about plus and minus being opposites. Division and multiplication and division being opposites or undoing each other. These are the operations. Like if I see this, I use it. If I see this, I use this. If you see a square, so the square, then what you are going to do is perform the square root. So those are going to be your opposite operations when you're looking at that square. Now, there is a thing as a cubed, and then using the cube root, so fourth root, so on and so forth. But in most cases, you will live in this area of utilizing those operations to solve equations and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and get down to our R, okay? Boom, let's go. So A equals pi r squared. R squared, first things first, gotta move that pi because I want to get to that R, right? So I move the pi, I have multiplication, I'm gonna undo that using division, So on the left side, we're gonna rewrite A divided by pi. On the right side, those simplify, right? And then you're left with R squared. Now, solving for R, not R squared, R to the first power. To take that to the first power, we have to perform the square root. So what do? We perform the square root on each side of the equation. So R to the 1 power is going to equal the square root of A divided by pi. Be careful with your answer choices because the square root of A, square root of X, that's not what we're talking about. The square root of A divided by pi is not the same thing as the square root of the quantity, this whole thing, A divided by pi, or the fraction A divided by pi. So just be careful at your answer choices because it'll be things like that, that it will look close to the right answer, but it's not actually the right answer. All right, that is the last problem for the day. That is the last problem for the day. And we're gonna upload that for anyone who needs to review these standards. Thank you so much for watching this video, for listening to my voice. Let me see, what did we miss? We already did that. So what will happen is a question and answer. Since no one's here, there are no questions, there are no answers. I will be uploading this to YouTube and I will post the problems. Oh, I'll have to go back and watch it for the problems that I did. Okay, I'll post the problems that we worked on so that everyone will have access to that. Next Monday, I don't know what we're studying just yet, but I will put it on there and I will do the same thing. I'll give you 40 minutes. The goal is an hour and we'll see what happens. But we're actually in the question and answer period of what I had planned. I had planned about a half an hour worth of instruction. And then, then we would end. But since there's no one here for question and answer period, then I don't have to do that this week. So next week, same time, 5 o'clock. Zoom, I don't know. I don't know about Zoom. I may do a IG Live only. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you. Please subscribe. I appreciate you watching my videos. And I really hope that you learned something and or something was cleared up and made it easier. See you next week.